What it do, y'all? We back again with some unique looks at the sixth house. I like to think that the sixth house is associated with routines, day-to-day energies, and habits. Now, the reason why this is the most associated with the sixth house is because of this. I think the sixth house represents, well, look, the sixth house is like it's mutable earth. So it's practical, but it's in different forms, different varieties, and it can be seen in different areas. So this is why, a lot of people say that the sixth house rules routines, day-to-day energies, and habits, because some of these things aren't really physical. However, the things that make them earth are the practical use of them. So for an example, routines, day-to-day energies, and habits. A habit may not be physical, but it can show up physical. If someone has a certain eating addiction, you may not see it, with them walking down the street. You may see it on their weight, but the main way you see that is through their day-to-day actions. And this is why, routines and day-to-day energy is because I like to say it's practical sustainment. How do you sustain yourself? And how someone sustains themselves is you can see that through their day-to-day lives. The sixth house can heavily deal with solutions to a problem because sixth house is so detail oriented and so sharp in the mind. It can really get radical and root to a problem. If you know anything about 3D printing, I believe this is heavily associated with sixth house energy. I feel this way because it almost mimics life. You got 12th house, the potential, 3rd house, the idea and process and communication, and then you got the 6th house, the practical forms and the variety of forms that can come out of that. Just like the 5th house, I believe that the 6th house deals with instruments and the practical instruments. Something that came into mind was string instruments. Think of like a guitar, a piano, or a sitar. Like you have to practically strum something to get a sound or a vibration. The 12th house. I believe that cleanliness, maintenance, and what I like to call practical purity are associated with the 6th house. Reason I say that is I believe that the 6th house is getting you prepared for the 8th house. And it's like, a lot of people tie the 8th house with purity. And I believe that cleaning and maintenance is like keeping something healthy and pure. And I believe these energies are heavily dealt with the 6th house. You'll hear a lot of people say the 6th house rules health and immune system, and your immune system helps fight off intruders to the body, certain sicknesses, to keep your body pure and clean. I believe when someone asks the question how, or how do you do that, or how does something work, that is heavily associated with the 6th house as well, because when you ask how, generally people are going to give you a detailed method of how something works, and that itself is an energy signature of the 6th house. Just like the 4th house, I said that the 4th house energy is the odd one out of the cardinals because it deals with reaction versus action, like all the other cardinal signs. As with the 6th house, I believe it's the odd one out of the earth because it's mutable. The reason being is because this is ruled by Mercury, so even though it's Earth, it's very mutable, adaptable, moving, quick, detail oriented, and this is what can be confused with. A lot of people confuse sixth house energy and Virgo energy with air because it is ruled by a air planet. But I like to call when I reference Virgo in the sixth house energy, I like to call this the Earth Mercury, whereas the third house and Gemini, they may talk and communicate, bounce off ideas, have a lot of ideas, and their Mercury is still in the air. When you get to the sixth house, this is where these ideas can be put to practical use, come up with practical ways of how you can bring these ideas down, and it's just a more physical Mercury. Overall, I think the sixth house can be summed up in practical sustainment. If you really look at the Earth trine, if you look at the 10th house is the lifestyle. If you look at the sixth house, it's the day-to-day routines and habits of that lifestyle. And when you look at the second house, it's the things, the materials and possessions within the day-to-day habits and routines. So the sixth house is like the constant. They're all the constant, but the sixth house is like the mutability of the constant. Think of like the days of the week. Yeah, you got a week, which is 7 days, but you have the multiple days within it, and each day has a different energy. Or if you look at the month or a year, you have a set calendar, and then you have the components within it. Another important thing that I wanted to say is that I think the sixth house rules cycles. Now, this is like obvious to me when I thought about it, but think of how many cycles there are on Earth. You have the water cycle, you have the menstrual cycle of women, you have the moon cycle, you have the cycle of the seasons, and even stepping outside of Earth, you have Earth's rotation. You have Earth's rotation around the sun. You have the moon's rotation around the sun. Around the Earth, excuse me. You have and if you get deep into science, you know that our sun is revolving around another sun. And I say that to say this: no matter how far you reach into the universe, there will always be cycles that are connected to other cycles. Like I said in the fifth house video, the Fibonacci sequence is like I tied it to the fifth house because anywhere in nature you will always find that expression. You can say the same about the sixth house. Wherever you go in the universe, there will always be some sort of cycle, always be some sort of routine pattern, always be some sort of habit. Like with any other house, this is an earth house, and it's always going to harmonize with water houses. It's always going to sextile fourth house, and it's always going to sextile the eighth house of Scorpio, and it's always going to be on the axis of the 12th house of Pisces. The reason this is important, especially with the axis to Pisces, is because of this. I believe that the sixth house represents all the variety of forms that can exist in manifestation. If you look at the opposite axis, you got 12th house, which I believe is the all-encompassing, the potential, life itself. The opposite spectrum of that, and you can almost look at it as the mirror, the sixth house is the many manifestations that come out of life. Think of how many manifestations come out of life: trees, animals, fish, elements, communication. Anything you can think of is a manifestation of life. When people talk about pets, they talk about sixth house as well, and this is why I think this is where that sextile to the water houses come in. When you listen to the phrase "taking care," I believe that's a combination of the fourth and sixth house energy, because you have to take care of your pet. There's things that your pet can't do for itself. So this, I believe that to be a heavy influence with the sixth houses, pets and certain animals that you take care of. Interestingly enough, wild animals are generally represented by the 12th house. Things that can take care of themselves, or are taken care of by life itself. This has been the sixth house, and I'll see you in the seventh.